Right guys, I'm going all newsreadery this morning with my glasses, showing Sean what a pair of specs look like that aren't fastened together with sellotape. You'll know what that means if you watched the recent BTCC roundup show that we did with Tom Ingram ahead of this weekend gone. If you haven't, you can see it on the app or over on YouTube and check out what Tom had to say ahead of the race weekend. Now, what a weekend it was at Silverstone. Three very interesting races that have really mixed things up in the title fight as we look ahead to Brands Hatch in 2 weeks' time and what is set to be a titanic battle to decide who wins the championship this year. As usual, we want to know who you think was your driver of the weekend, and I'm going to give you my three key moments from Silverstone. They might influence what you think, they might not. Might just get you talking a little bit about what we saw on track. Now, the first moment comes in race one. I've actually got something from each of the three races this weekend, and the moment in that first race is when Colin Turkington was tagged into a bit of a spin by Josh Cook. Now, it's just one of those things that happens. You know, Colin had qualified a bit lower down than he probably wanted to be, and unfortunately that means that you're right in the pack, and the concertina effect at Silverstone as cars back up into each other through the corners can have a big impact, and that's exactly what happened to Colin. He got turned around and it dropped him back down the pack, and that then led in turn to him getting caught up with Jack Bruttel later on, and had it not been for that first incident he wouldn't have been there to get involved in the second one, so on and so forth. And that had a really big impact on Colin's weekend because it dropped him to the back of the grid and it was difficult to make up ground. You know, he salvaged some points in races 2 and 3, but it means he's gone from leading the championship going into the weekend to now being 27 points behind going to Brands Hatch. That's going to make it really difficult for the Northern Irishman when you look at the form of the other three drivers, but at the same time the fact that Colin had that misfortune showed how quickly things can change. It only needs one of the other three to have a similar problem in race 1 at Brands Hatch, Colin to get a win, all of a sudden he's right back in it and he's right into contention. So the first key moment, Colin Turkington's issue in race 1, simply because of the impact it would have on the championship standings across the rest of the weekend. Key moment 2, race 2, battle for the lead between Rory Butcher and Jake Hill. Great move by Jake. He'd been sizing up Rory ahead for a little bit of time. He saw a chance to get up the inside through Woodcote and into Luffield, and then Luffield and into Woodcote, and then up the inside into Copse through into the lead of the race. Vital because we're at that stage of the season now where every point matters. Had this been round 1, Jake might have taken the decision to sit behind Rory and bag the points. You can't do that at this stage of the season. You need those points because you've got to keep pace with your championship contenders. It was a great move by Jake. The extra points there allowed him to close in a bit towards the top, and even though he then lost a few points in race 3 when he finished behind Ingram and Ash Sutton, it was, you know, a key moment for him. So that pass for the lead for Jake Hill in race 2, the second key moment for me of the weekend. And the key moment in race 3, right at the very start. Now, we saw off the line Josh Cook and Dan Camish almost getting together. Then as we went into Beckett's, we saw Adam Morgan and Josh get together, and that was key because it allowed Tom Ingram just behind to nip through into the lead. Now, Ingram going into the weekend said it was all about getting as many points as possible. He'd taken 5th in race 1, 5th in race 2, but he knew that that reverse grid race was a chance for him to score big, and that is exactly what he did. Didn't have it easy because he had Ash Sutton behind him, and it was good to see the pair of them running together at the front. Ingram held on, got that victory, and that means that he's up to 3rd in the standings now, 7 points covering the top 3 drivers. I can't recall off the top of my head a time when we've had 3 drivers separated by such a small amount going into the last 3 races, and it really leaves it very, very open as we look ahead to Brands Hatch in a couple of weeks' time. There was quite a lot of talk in the media centre last night about who would you want to be going into the finale, and I don't think it's a question you can really answer. You could probably make an argument for all 3 drivers. You know, if you look at Ingram, the Hyundai is obviously a very quick package, we know that. it's won races, it's been consistently towards the sharp end, but at the same time the focus has come on leaps and bounds this season as Ash and his engineering team have got it more suited to his driving style and how he likes the car. That's been reflected in his results over the second half of the season. And then Jake's BMW. You know, the BMW disadvantage might come if it's a bit cold and a bit damp, because we know the car doesn't like those conditions that much, but it wasn't exactly warm at Silverstone at the weekend, and Jake did alright. So it's very open. If I was a betting man, I wouldn't be going down to the bookies and putting my money on anybody for the title. I think all we can do is look ahead to what I think is going to be a fantastic season finale. And of course, like I've said, you can't rule out Colin Turkington, because while 27 points is a big gap, it's certainly a gap that he could overhaul if things were to fall in his favour. And everyone who's watched the BTCC for a while knows that when it comes to the final rounds, anything can happen. How many times in the last few seasons have we seen it look like it's going to go one way and then it goes another? So it's those four who will be in contention for the overall title. Just a quick note, we did see one title wrapped up at the weekend, Josh Cook taking that unassailable lead in the Independence Championship. Great for him on one hand, but he was obviously disappointed on the other that his overall championship campaign came to an end and hasn't quite materialised as he hoped it would at the start of the year. And then Jack Sears Trophy, that's going to be a two-way fight. Bobby Thompson against George Gamble. Bobby will have to have a bad weekend for George to stand any chance of taking it, because there's 60 points on the table and it's a big gap between the pair of them. So for Bobby, it's really a case of just making sure he brings his Cupra home to the finish in all three races, and that will probably, to be fair, be enough for him to take the title. But George won't give up. He'll keep pushing, and that'll be something else to just keep an eye on alongside the fight for the overall title. So those are my three moments of the weekend. Like I say, whether it'll influence you or not, I don't know. But it'd be nice to know what you thought was the key moment from the Silverstone meeting. And like I say, make sure you get your votes in for who you think is your driver of the day, and we'll let you know who's got it in due course.